Gary Neville. Gary, great to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here.
All right, we're going to talk about the club that is near and dear to your heart, Manchester United, currently sitting in 4th place, in a good position to finish top 4. They won the Carabao Cup this year. They're going to play Manchester City in an FA Cup final. How would you assess their season this year?
I think overall the fans are pretty happy. Particularly with how it started. It was a chaotic transfer window last summer where they couldn't get the players in initially that they wanted, particularly Frankie de Jong from Barcelona. But I think once the season got into full flow, I think that the fans, me included, the media have been pretty impressed by Erik ten Hag. I think there's still a long way to go. I think we're still... The concern with United is that because we've become... I suppose our ambitions have been suppressed over the last 10 years, that we think top 4 is a good season, we think winning the Carabao Cup is a good season and getting to an FA Cup final, whereas actually in the most recent history where Sir Alex Ferguson was the manager, we always measured success by winning the Premier League or Champions League. So, yeah, there is a little bit of the ambition that's been sort of lowered over the last 10 years, but I think in terms of Erik ten Hag and his first season, I think generally people are very happy. The major issue at the club, I think, throughout this season from a fan's perspective is obviously the ownership and wanting that to change.
Gary, I actually have a question regarding the ownership. Currently, obviously, American owners, a lot of Brits have been critical of. I know you have as well. But then also on the other side, there's also the chance that it might be owned potentially by a state. Is there a preference? Is there something that you look forward to when it comes to the new ownership? Is there something you could hope for?
No, I mean, where I've been critical, I think, in relation to sort of what would be, I suppose, US investment is where private equity is involved. And I don't believe people... Look, I'm a businessman and I'm a capitalist, I'm not a socialist, so I'm not sat here saying that everybody should spread their money around and everybody should get the same amount of money. But I don't believe that your intention when you buy a football club should be for financial purposes. It should be for sporting objectives and to improve the richness of that asset in respect of the fan experience, the infrastructure, you know. And what I've seen in the last few years is I think that there's been quite a lot of expectation from US-based funds that when they come in, they're expecting a return on their investment and they make decisions based on that. And that's been my... I think there are some good US owners in the Premier League. The owners at Crystal Palace, with Steve Parish, are very, very successful. But they're individuals, they put their own money in. They're really sort of, if you like, embedded in the club and the culture. And it works that way. I think when it's someone else's money and you're spending money from a fund and it's money that no one knows where it's coming from, I don't like that as much. So what I like is generally is an ownership that embeds itself, and it's the same it'll be the same in the US as well with regards to sports ownership. You want owners that really are compassionate about the fans, about the community, about the club, about the stadium, about the history, that have sporting objectives but also non-sporting objectives that align with the history of the club. And the problem is at Manchester United, 20 years ago when the Glazer family came into the club, Manchester United had the greatest football stadium in the world, they had the best training ground in the UK, and they had the best team in Europe and the best team in England. We're now in a situation where all 3 of those things are 3rd and 4th rate, and they're well off where they should be. So the assets have deteriorated, the infrastructure's deteriorated, and the team's performance has deteriorated. Along the way, they've taken out over £1 billion. They've had a lot of in interest and debt repayment and in dividend. And that's where the criticism of the Glazer family comes.
So, Gary, it sounds like you prefer the Ratcliffe bid over any of the other bids.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that at this moment in time. I've not seen the pledges that have been made by any of the bids. At the moment, is the Jim Ratcliffe bid, there is the Qatari bid, and then there are a number of US investment funds like Carlyle Group, Elliott, that have come forward and said that they would put funds into the club. I don't want private equity money into an English football club. I'll be really clear. I don't think it works. I think that football is about emotion, sport is about emotion. I accept that in my life, I have, believe it or not, in Manchester, I have a partnership with a US private equity fund. And I believe in other sectors of life that I love international investment. But I think in football clubs, you can't go into it purely because you want to see a pounds and pence return or a dollar return. I think you have to go into it because you want to invest in the team, in the sporting project. And when it comes to the current bids, at this moment in time, I've not seen the pledges, but I think Jim Ratcliffe has its merits. The state owned bid, or the Sheikh Jassim bid, I think has its merits. Let's wait and see. My main concern at this moment in time is that the Glazer family sell and that they remove themselves from the club. They'll make a lot of money. Well done to them for that. They've proved to be very astute business people. But now it's time to hand over control because the club has deteriorated under their ownership.
Gary, you're speaking about the club infrastructure and the training grounds. I want to focus on the development, the player development. Is it United going in the right direction in terms of producing players that will eventually play in the first team and bring European glory and English Premier League trophies? Or do you feel like they're not producing the amount of players that they should, and the focus needs to be back on developing, through and through United players as it was when you came through?
Yeah, I wouldn't put pressure on the current ownership or future ownership to produce as many players that came through when we came through. There were 6 or 7 of us came through all in the space of 1 or 2 seasons, which I think is too big an ask. But Manchester United, to be fair, and I have to say even the current ownership and the current coaching staff have continued to produce players even when Jose Mourinho was here. Young players from the academy have come through into the first team. And Manchester United have always had a very clear model around how they've been successful through the last 60 or 70 years when recruiting players. One, as you mentioned, is from the academy, and we should always produce academy players because that's something that's really important to the values of the club. Then we've signed the best-in-class players that play in the Premier League, and we've always done that, whether it be through Rio Ferdinand, Wayne Rooney, Robin van Persie. It's always signed the best players in the Premier League that are available at that time. And then we've always signed up-and-coming international players who've got growth in them. We've never signed the finished star. We've always signed, say, a Cristiano Ronaldo and then grown him to be a world star or players. Now, that model's changed slightly over the last 10 years, but I think it's a very clear and been successful model for Manchester United. That I think can be successful throughout the decades and throughout not just the past and the present, but also the future. But I think the academy team won the Youth Cup last season, the FA Youth Cup, which is the most prominent youth tournament over here. And Manchester United continue to develop some really high-quality young players. Garnacho's come through this season, Marcus Rashford's playing in the team, McTominay's playing in the team. So we've got 3 or 4 players already in the squad that have come through the academy, which I think is probably about the right number of players that you would want to produce from the academy. You'd love more, but I think 3 or 4 is an acceptable number.
Gary, you spoke a little bit about how maybe 10, 15 years ago, the plan for Manchester United was to, besides obviously developing, is to go out and get some of those young stars. A big young English star in Jude Bellingham seems to be on the market, but it doesn't seem like Manchester United is one of his options. He's looking either really at City or Real Madrid. Do you begrudge a little bit that United is in a position where they're not one of those names that's being considered? Or are you happy that they're not going after these big ticket items and sort of looking in other ways to develop the team?
I said 2 years ago, I think it's changed slightly in the last 12 months with Erik ten Hag, but I said 2 years ago that Manchester United has become a graveyard for expensive signings. If you look at the signings over the last 5 to 10 years, there's only really Bruno Fernandes that's excelled as a signing that's come in and really done well. A lot of the other signings that have been made in the last 5 or 10 years have struggled to meet the expectation levels that you would expected from them when they signed. So I think that when Jude Bellingham looks at, say, for instance, at the moment, Harry Maguire, who was an expensive signing, who was well thought of, when he looks at other examples in this last 5 or 10 years about how Manchester United have developed players, I think that to me is understandable why you would look at Manchester City and Real Madrid. That is what this ownership have done in the last 10 years since Sir Alex Ferguson have left. they've allowed the sporting project to deteriorate to such a level where now Manchester United isn't the first club that you think of when you're a young player thinking of going playing at the best clubs in Europe. And that's a real problem. You know, as I said before, 10 years ago when Sir Alex Ferguson was at the club and in that first period of the Glazer ownership, we had the best stadium, the best training ground and the best team, and we were an attractive proposition. We've now become a proposition that isn't as attractive. So Jude Bellingham, I understand completely that he would want to go to other clubs at this moment in time, but do find it frustrating, of course.